The emergency beacon blared across 17 languages at once, each translation sounding more frantic than the one before. Attention, all diplomatic vessels. This is Nexus Prime Station requesting immediate guidance from High Mediator Calith regarding materials humans consider appropriate for a summit. Calitha's voice crackled through the quantum comm. Captain Patricia Wells leaned back in her chair aboard the UES Determination, watching 3 alien ambassadors wave their limbs in agitation on the main display. The Galactic Concord Alliance's most important peace summit in 2 centuries, and someone was already unraveling. Station Control, this is Captain Wells. What seems to be the problem? Captain, concerns have been raised about your delegation's cargo manifest. Patricia glanced at Dr. Emily Vasquez, who was calmly reviewing xenobiology protocols on her tablet. Emily looked up wearing that innocent expression she always had when events were about to become complicated. Our manifest is completely standard, Patricia replied. Diplomatic gifts, cultural exchange materials, and Dr. Vasquez's research companion. The silence that followed lasted just long enough for Patricia to wonder whether the translation matrix had failed. Research companion. Calitha's voice had dropped to a careful whisper. Standard procedure for extended diplomatic missions. Emotional support and scientific observation. Fully documented. On the screen, Ambassador Ku's mantis-like head tilted at an angle suggesting either deep thought or imminent shutdown. The logical Krellick prided themselves on planning for every scenario, yet something had clearly escaped their projections. Perhaps Krellick's translator rendered his rapid clicking into flawless galactic standard. This cargo should be discussed in person. 20 minutes later, Patricia stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime, facing a semicircle of the most powerful diplomats in the galaxy. The hall was a triumph of neutral design, curved walls belonging to no single species, lighting balanced across multiple visual spectrums, and seating engineered to accommodate everything from drifting gas-based beings to towering crystalline architects. Today, those carefully impartial seats were filled with decidedly uneasy aliens. High Chancellor Vexthra of the Zepyrian stood at the central podium, her silver-scaled form radiating authority forged through governing 3 star systems, and surviving 2 wars. 4 eyes fixed on Patricia, 2 forward for focus, 2 angled outward for threat detection. Captain Wells, Vexthra began, her voice carrying the melodic undertone that made Zepyrian speech almost hypnotic. The Galactic Concord Alliance has spent 4 months preparing these negotiations. Every detail examined. Every cultural protocol observed. Patricia inclined her head. She had studied the same briefings twice. However, Vexthra continued, new information has come to our attention regarding your species' nature, information that raises questions about humanity's suitability for galactic citizenship. The central display lit up, revealing Earth's blue-green surface rotating peacefully against the stars. Patricia had seen that image in countless first contact documentaries. From orbit, humanity always looked harmless. Cultural analyst Zimkath, Vexthra said, gesturing toward a smaller Zepyrian at the controls, has prepared a presentation. Zimkath's scales shimmered with nervous color patterns as he activated the holographic projector. Honored delegates, he began, during our research, we discovered that humans classify certain predators as entertainment. The display shifted. Patricia blinked. A massive crocodile burst from murky water, jaws snapping shut around an antelope. The footage was sharp, professionally filmed, accompanied by the calm narration of David Attenborough. The Nile crocodile can remain motionless for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This, Zimkath announced, is what humans watch for pleasure. The images continued, great white sharks exploding from the ocean in violent breaches, lions coordinating a takedown of a buffalo, a polar bear dismantling a seal with chilling efficiency. Around the chamber, species reacted in their own ways. Delegate Fergan's feathered crest flattened tightly against his skull, a clear panic signal. Ambassador Krellick's compound eyes processed the footage with mechanical precision, yet his mandibles clicked in a pattern Patricia recognized from her briefings as severe distress. Furthermore, Zimkath continued, gaining confidence, humans have designated entire ecosystems as recreational zones. They voluntarily enter environments inhabited by these predators. For enjoyment. The display changed to safari footage, humans laughing while photographing lions, swimming near reef sharks, hiking through forests known to contain bears. They actively seek proximity to apex predators, Zimkath said. Trade Representative Yxandra, whose species evolved as prey on a world filled with venomous hunters, emitted a high whistling sound like overheated machinery. "If I may," Patricia began. "There is more," Zimkath interrupted, momentum carrying him forward. "Humans have created fictional entertainment centered on predation. They simulate being hunted. They describe this as fun. Movie posters filled the air: Jaws, Predator, Jurassic Park, Alien, The Thing. They imagine creatures that are even more efficient killers," Zimkath pressed on, voice rising. "Then they pay currency to experience fear in controlled environments." Patricia watched as High Chancellor Vexthera's 4 eyes narrowed, calculating. The chamber fell silent. Humanity, it seemed, was no longer being evaluated as diplomats. They were being assessed as predators. This was no longer a cultural misunderstanding. It was political theater, carefully staged to paint humanity as a species of thrill-seeking lunatics who treated nightmares as hobbies. The footage built to a climax, a montage of extreme sports. Humans leaping from cliffs, diving into underwater caves, swimming beside actual sharks. The universal translator struggled to soften the excited commentary into something that wouldn't sound completely unhinged to alien ears. "This," Vexthera declared, "is the species we are considering for membership in the Galactic Concord Alliance. A civilization that treats mortal danger as recreation, that studies apex predators for entertainment, and that deliberately enters situations designed to trigger survival instincts in any rational being." The hall fell silent, broken only by the faint sound of Delegate Fergan's stress molting in real time, small feathers drifting down around his chair. Patricia rose slowly. Her chair scraped softly against the floor, yet the sound seemed to echo across the vast chamber. "That was an impressive presentation," she said calmly, in a tone that made Emily glance up from her tablet with sudden interest. "But I do have one question." Vexthera gestured for her to continue, clearly expecting a defense. Patricia smiled. Not the diplomatic smile from training simulations. The other one, the smile she wore when someone revealed their strategy too soon. "You've shown footage of Earth's predators. Thorough research. But I'm curious, would you like me to bring one here so you can meet it?" The silence that followed was absolute. Patricia could hear the station's life support cycling air through the ventilation system. High Chancellor Vexthera's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, left pair, right pair, then the forward-facing set together. In Zephyrian body language, that signaled a serious processing error. "Bring one," she repeated. "Oh yes," Patricia said casually. Dr. Vasquez brought her research companion for emotional support and scientific documentation. It's currently in Docking Bay 94. Probably wondering why introductions are taking so long. Ambassador Krellick's mandibles stopped clicking entirely. "You brought," his translator hesitated, as if struggling with the concept. "You brought an Earth predator to a diplomatic summit?" Patricia tilted her head. "Emily prefers research partner, but predator isn't technically wrong. She's very well behaved. Excellent with people, once she gets to know them." Trade Representative Yxandra emitted the high-pitched kettle sound again, louder this time. Dr. Emily Vasquez finally looked up from her tablet, still wearing that innocent expression. "Ripley's been asking about the meeting schedule. She gets restless without enough social interaction." The chamber erupted. 3 species began speaking at once in languages the translation matrix couldn't fully process. Delegate Fergan's molting intensified into a small feather blizzard. Ambassador Krellick started calculating probability matrices aloud in rapid-fire clicks that sounded like a malfunctioning typewriter. High Chancellor Vexthera raised all 4 hands for silence, her scales shifting into a deep blue pattern that signaled either intense focus or imminent violence. "Captain Wells," she said carefully, "are you telling this assembly that humanity has brought one of those creatures," she gestured toward the display, still showing crocodiles tearing apart prey, "to the most important diplomatic gathering in galactic history?" Patricia's smile widened slightly. "Not exactly those creatures, no." A collective sigh of relief rippled through the hall. Ripley's far more interesting than anything in that documentary. The relief evaporated. Deep within Nexus Prime Station, in the climate-controlled quiet of Docking Bay 94, something large shifted its weight. It made a sound the universal translators could not even attempt to interpret. But that wasn't the worst part. Captain Patricia Wells watched the emergency session collapse into what might generously be called organized panic, and less generously, total bureaucratic meltdown. 3 ambassadors had already submitted formal requests to relocate the summit to another star system. 2 more demanded immediate quarantine protocols. Delegate Fergan was molting so rapidly that maintenance drones had been dispatched to clear feathers from around his chair. Then the hall's communication system crackled. Station control to all diplomatic personnel. Code yellow in Docking Bay 94. Repeat, code yellow in Bay 94. High Chancellor Vexthera's scales shifted into a pattern Patricia didn't recognize, but it looked unmistakably like restrained fury mixed with existential dread. Code yellow, Vexthera said slowly, is reserved for containment breaches. Dr. Emily Vasquez glanced up, mildly surprised. Oh. That's probably just Ripley getting impatient. She doesn't like being confined too long. The chamber went silent again, except for the rapid clicking of Ambassador Krellick calculating survival probabilities. Dr. Vasquez, High Mediator Calith said in a voice carefully balanced on the edge of panic, perhaps you could clarify your research partner's current condition. Emily considered this thoughtfully. She's likely wondering why we haven't introduced her yet. Ripley is very social. She gets lonely. Lonely? Yxandra repeated, her voice climbing 2 octaves. Oh, absolutely, Emily continued. She forms very strong emotional bonds. Once she decides she likes someone, she's extremely protective. Almost maternal, really. The communication system crackled again. Station control to Captain Wells. Please report to Docking Bay 94 immediately. We have additional questions about your cargo manifest. Patricia rose and smoothed her diplomatic uniform. Well, she said lightly, I suppose we should go make proper introductions. Emily, would you like to bring Ripley to meet everyone? The suggestion struck the assembly like a quantum torpedo. High Chancellor Vexthera shot to her feet, all 4 eyes locking onto Patricia with sharp intensity. Captain Wells, you cannot seriously be suggesting that you bring that creature into the Grand Assembly Hall. Why not? Patricia asked, wide-eyed. You wanted to discuss humanity's relationship with predators. What better way than a personal introduction? Because, Ambassador Krellick's translator strained to keep up with his frantic clicking, the statistical probability of survival drops to unacceptable levels when apex predators are placed in enclosed spaces containing prey species. Emily looked genuinely confused. Prey species? Ripley doesn't see people as prey. She's very well socialized. Then what, Delegate Fergan managed between stress molts, does she see people as? Emily's smile brightened. Family. The word translated into 17 languages at once, each version carrying shades of affection, loyalty, and fierce territorial protection. None of them made the diplomats look less terrified. The announcement system crackled again, noticeably more urgent. Station control to all personnel. Code Yellow has been upgraded to Code Orange in Docking Bay 94. Engineering reports structural vibrations consistent with large-scale movement. High Mediator Calith activated his podium controls. Station control, this is the assembly hall. What is causing the vibrations? Sir, the creature in Bay 94 appears to be pacing. It is producing vocalizations that are generating resonance throughout the docking section. What kind of vocalizations? Calith asked, though his expression suggested he didn't want the answer. Computer classification indicates purring. Silence. Trade Representative Yxandra began quietly hyperventilating. Purring, Vexthera repeated carefully. Your apex predator is purring. It means she's happy, Emily explained. Although when Ripley purrs, it carries a bit more bass than most people expect. Patricia's communicator chimed. She glanced at it and suppressed a grin. That's Commander Paul Bennett from Station Security. He'd like a word. She opened the channel. Patricia here. Paul, how are things in the security hub? Commander Bennett's voice was tightly controlled, the voice of someone working very hard not to panic. Captain, I need clarification. I'm reviewing the bioscanner data from Bay 94, and the numbers don't add up. What kind of numbers? According to our sensors, your research companion is approximately 4 meters long, weighs around 600 kilograms, and has a core body temperature consistent with extremely high metabolic activity. Emily nodded. That sounds correct. Ripley's put on a little weight since we left Earth. I think she likes the ship's food synthesizer. 600 kilograms, Ambassador Krellick whispered, his compound eyes recalculating outcomes with mechanical precision. There's more, Bennett continued. Those readings are from a resting state. Movement sensors indicate that when your companion becomes active, she can generate significant kinetic force. Oh, absolutely, Emily agreed cheerfully. Ripley's very athletic. She needs regular exercise or she gets restless. As if summoned by the comment, a low vibration rolled through the station's structure. It was unmistakably purring, but layered with deep harmonics that triggered instinctive danger responses in several species' inner ears. Delegate Fergan's feathers were falling so quickly that maintenance drones struggled to keep up. Station control, Calith said tightly. Status of Bay 94 containment systems? The containment field is holding, came the reply. However, we are receiving unusual readings. The creature appears to be investigating the barriers. Investigating how? Systematically, sir. Engineers believe it is attempting to understand how the containment systems function. Emily looked proud. Ripley's very intelligent. She likes to understand her surroundings. She's testing the barriers, Yxandra said, her voice now a pure whistle. Oh, not testing them to break them, Emily clarified. Just exploring. Ripley has an excellent sense of boundaries. She won't go anywhere she isn't supposed to. Unless... Vexthra asked quietly. Emily shrugged. Unless she thinks someone in her family needs help. The assembly stared. Family, Krellick repeated. Yes. Me. Patricia. The crew of the Determination. Anyone she's chosen to adopt. Ripley has very strong protective instincts. Another rumble echoed through the station, this one deeper, sharper. Where the first had carried contentment, this one carried something else. Attention. Station control, Calith demanded. Has anything changed in Bay 94? Sir, we believe the creature can hear the assembly hall through the station's communication network. The vocalization shifted immediately after Dr. Vasquez mentioned family and protection. Emily beamed. Oh, Ripley's listening. She probably wants to meet everyone. She's wonderful with new people, once she gets to know them. Gets to know them, how? Vexthra asked carefully. Well, Emily said, she likes to smell people first. It helps her understand their emotional state. Then she checks to see if they're healthy. Ripley's very nurturing. She smells people? Oh yes, Emily said brightly. Ripley has an extraordinary sense of smell. She can detect stress hormones, fear pheromones, even subtle health irregularities. It's really quite impressive. Around the chamber, several species suddenly became very aware of exactly how many stress hormones and fear pheromones they were currently releasing. Patricia's communicator chimed again. This time it was marked priority, from the Xerian vessel Serene Contemplation. Captain Wells, said a tense voice she didn't recognize. This is Sub-Commander Tauren of the Zephyrian delegation. We are requesting immediate authorization to adjust our orbital position. Adjust your position? Patricia asked. Yes, Captain. We would prefer to move to a higher orbit. Significantly higher. High Chancellor Vexthra's scales flushed a deep purple. Sub-Commander. You will maintain standard diplomatic positioning. With respect, Chancellor, our threat assessment systems strongly recommend immediate tactical withdrawal. Based on what threat? Vexthra demanded. Chancellor, we've been monitoring the station's bioscanner data. Our systems have classified the creature in Bay 94 as a Class X apex predator. The chamber fell silent. Class X, Ambassador Krellick whispered. That is the highest threat classification in galactic protocol. What does Class X mean? Patricia asked evenly, though she suspected the answer. It means, Krellick's translator rendered with cold precision, the creature is capable of hunting and killing any known sentient species with minimal effort. Emily blinked. That seems a bit dramatic. Ripley has never harmed anyone who didn't try to hurt her family first. The word first hung in the air like a detonator waiting to be pressed. Dr. Vasquez, High Mediator Calith said carefully, what happens if someone does attempt to harm her family? Emily considered the question thoughtfully. That hasn't happened while I've been working with her, but based on behavioral analysis and neurological scans. She tapped her tablet. Ripley demonstrates exceptionally high intelligence. Her problem-solving abilities exceed most documented sentient species, and her protective instincts are deeply embedded in her neural structure. Embedded how? Vexthra asked. Think of it as evolutionary programming. Her species survives by defending territory and pack members. It isn't a conscious decision. It's a biological imperative. A deeper rumble rolled through the station, longer this time, layered with harmonics that seemed to test the acoustic properties of the assembly hall itself. Station control, Calith said urgently. Is the creature still contained in Bay 94? Yes, sir. However, we are detecting increased activity levels. Bioscanners suggest the creature is mapping the station layout through echolocation. Mapping. Trade Representative Yxandra repeated faintly. Ripley likes to understand her surroundings completely before engaging socially, Emily explained. It's considerate, really. Patricia checked her chronometer and hid another smile. Right on time. Well, she said smoothly, this cultural discussion has been enlightening, but perhaps we should move to practical matters. Emily, would you like to check on Ripley? She's probably wondering why introductions are delayed. The suggestion struck the chamber like antimatter. And then the alarms began. These were not the soft diplomatic chimes reserved for minor emergencies. These were deep, bone-rattling klaxons, the kind reserved for existential threats. All operations personnel to emergency stations, the automated system announced in 17 languages. Unknown vessels detected on approach vector. Classification, hostile. Estimated time to weapons range, 8 minutes. Patricia felt the familiar stillness settle over her, the calm that arrived when chaos crossed the line into genuine danger. Around her, panic spread through the chamber in species-specific ways. Patricia, however, had already shifted from diplomat to combat officer. Station control, Calith called over the alarms. Identify the threat. Sir, 12 vessels detected on long-range sensors. Configuration matches Vkani Warfleet patterns. They are broadcasting surrender demands on emergency frequencies. The name hit the chamber like a shockwave. Even those who had never faced them knew the reputation. The Vkani did not negotiate. They did not capture prisoners. They issued demands, and if those demands were refused, they reduced entire stations to expanding clouds of superheated debris. Surrender demands. Vexthra's scales had turned stark white. The Concord Alliance holds a non-aggression treaty with the Vkani Empire. Apparently, Patricia said dryly, they've decided to revisit the terms. Ambassador Krellick's compound eyes flickered as he processed tactical projections. 12 Vkani vessels versus Nexus Prime's defense grid. Probability of successful station defense, approximately 4%. 4%. Yxandra whispered, barely breathing. That assumes optimal coordination and zero technical failures, Krellick added. Under current panic conditions, probability decreases to 0.8%. Another alarm layered itself into the noise, sharper and more urgent. Station control, Calith demanded. What is the second alert? Containment breach warning in Docking Bay 94. The creature is reacting to the external threat alarms. A sound reverberated through the station's structure. The earlier purring had been almost gentle by comparison. This was still Ripley, but the tone had shifted. The frequencies cut past rational thought and reached directly into the deepest evolutionary memories of every species present. The memory of being hunted. Ripley doesn't like sudden loud noises, Dr. Emily Vasquez said, glancing at her tablet. They make her think something is threatening her family. Threatening her family? Delegate Fergan asked, feathers falling rapidly. Yes, Emily replied. And when Ripley believes her family is in danger. She paused, scrolling through fresh data. The rumble deepened. Well, Emily continued carefully, her psychological profile shows extremely strong protective responses. The sound from Docking Bay 94 shifted again. It took on a steady rhythm, heavy, deliberate movement. Station control, Patricia said, activating her communicator. Captain Wells here. What's Ripley's current status? Captain, the creature is active. Very active. Bioscanners show elevated heart rate, increased metabolic output, and movement patterns consistent with hunting behavior. She's not hunting, Emily corrected gently. She's evaluating threats and preparing a defensive response. That's completely different. Different how? Vexthera demanded. When Ripley hunts, she's silent and methodical. When she's protecting family, Emily paused. She's much more direct. A new vibration rolled through the station's hull, stronger now. Intentional. Station control, Kalleth said, his voice tightening. What is causing those vibrations? Sir, the creature appears to be testing the structural integrity of Bay 94's bulkheads. Testing. Kalleth repeated. She's tapping them in a systematic pattern. Engineers believe she's identifying structural weaknesses, calculating the most efficient exit route. Emily nodded approvingly. Ripley has an intuitive understanding of load-bearing systems. She's remarkably good at applied physics. She's attempting to break out, Ambassador Krellick stated flatly. She's trying to reach her family, Emily replied. There's a distinction. What distinction? Several voices demanded at once. When Ripley damages infrastructure to reach a location, she avoids unnecessary destruction. She's actually very considerate. For a moment, the approaching Vkani fleet seemed almost secondary. 12 hostile warships were dangerous, but they were still 7 minutes away. Whatever was in Bay 94 was here. And it was already moving. Dr. Vasquez, High Mediator Kalleth said with strained politeness, is there any way you can communicate with your research partner? Perhaps persuade her to remain in Bay 94 until this emergency is resolved. Emily tilted her head. I can try. But Ripley doesn't fully understand the concept of staying safe while her family is threatened. That isn't how her species thinks. And how does her species think? Vexthera asked. They evolved as apex predators on a world populated by other apex predators. Ripley's kind survived by being more intelligent, more protective, and more determined than everything else in their ecosystem. More determined in what sense? They don't retreat, Emily said simply. If something threatens their family, they remove the threat. It isn't personal. It's biological. The tapping from Bay 94 had grown sharper, more focused. It no longer sounded exploratory. It sounded like controlled demolition, precise, calculated force applied to specific points. Station control, Patricia said evenly. Estimate time until containment failure. The containment field remains stable, Captain. However, the creature has identified the power coupling nodes. She's not trying to breach the field, the technician continued. She appears to be searching for a way to disable it. Disable it? Kalleth echoed. Yes, sir. She seems to understand the containment system has an external control mechanism. She's testing access points to locate it. Emily's expression glowed with pride. Ripley has always been quick with technology. She recognizes patterns almost instantly. She learns. Krellick's clicking accelerated, approaching computational overload. Oh yes, Emily replied. Her pattern recognition exceeds most artificial intelligence systems. Once she understands a mechanism, she never forgets it. At that precise moment, the Vkani fleet cut into the station's communications. Nexus Prime Station, a harsh voice announced. The translation matrix rendered it into galactic standard, but the tone carried the unmistakable edge of violence. This is Fleet Commander Haskell of the Iron Conquest. You will surrender all diplomatic personnel for processing. Transfer all technological assets to Vkani control. Abandon this facility within 30 standard minutes. A pause. Or we will demonstrate why the Vkani Empire does not repeat surrender demands. The transmission ended. Silence filled the chamber. 30 minutes, Trade Representative Yxandra whispered. Station control, Kalleth demanded. What are our defensive options? Sir. Nexus Prime's defense grid can withstand perhaps 3 Vkani vessels under optimal conditions. And against 12. The pause said everything. We could evacuate, Delegate Fergan suggested weakly. Full evacuation would require a minimum of 4 hours, Krellick calculated. We have 30 minutes. From Docking Bay 94 came the unmistakable hum of a containment field shutting down, followed by a deep, satisfied purr. "Station control," Patricia said calmly. "I believe Ripley has located the exit." The power-down sequence was followed by heavy, purposeful movement through the station corridors. Within minutes, Ripley reached the entrance to the Grand Assembly Hall. She chimed politely. "She won't enter without permission," Dr. Emily Vasquez explained to the frozen diplomats. "Ripley has excellent manners." Captain Patricia Wells stepped forward and opened the doors. Ripley entered. 4 meters of perfectly evolved predator, beautiful and terrifying at once. Every movement was smooth, controlled, deliberate. Her eyes swept across the chamber, cataloging every individual, assessing threat levels with sharp, protective intelligence. Fleet Commander Haskell's image flickered on the main display. "Your pet is irrelevant," he sneered. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Ripley's head turned slowly toward the screen. Her posture changed the moment she identified the source of danger to her family. The sound she produced was low and resonant, frequencies that bypassed language and struck directly at the oldest instincts of every species present. "Ripley is requesting permission to neutralize the threat," Emily translated calmly. "The threat is in space," High Mediator Kalleth whispered. "That won't be an issue," Emily replied. "Her species evolved in low gravity and thin atmosphere. She functions quite well in vacuum." Haskell laughed. "No biological organism survives space without protection." Ripley made a soft, almost conversational sound while studying the tactical display. Her gaze tracked the Vkani formation, calculating vectors, identifying weaknesses. Patricia activated the station's external broadcast channel. "All Vkani vessels, this is Nexus Prime Station. You have 30 seconds to withdraw before our diplomatic security specialist responds to your hostile actions." "Our what?" Haskell snarled. 18 minutes later, the Vkani fleet was in full retreat. All 12 vessels reported catastrophic hull breaches of unknown origin. Structural failures appeared at critical stress points, damage inconsistent with any recognized weapon system. Inside Nexus Prime, Patricia watched as Ripley stepped back through the airlock, purring contentedly. Clutched gently in her jaws was a curved section of Vkani hull plating, apparently kept as a souvenir. High Chancellor Vexthera stared at the tactical display, then at Ripley, who was now being affectionately scratched behind the jaw by Emily while emitting pleased, rumbling sounds. "So," Vexthera said carefully, "regarding humanity's application for Galactic Concord membership." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Yes." When Vexthera asked with measured calm, "Shall we schedule the signing ceremony?"